card, then your time is up. There's a request that he move to this seat. Maybe that's reasonable. Okay, last but not least, Nathan Fletcher, also running for mayor as California Assemblyman representing the 75th District.
Thank you. So I want to address one issue that was raised by someone when I came in. I have a nasty cut on my head. I did suffer a head injury this morning surfing. I met the front end of my surfboard. I tweeted, if you think party politics is rough, you ought to try surfing in the morning. But I want to dispel one notion. I made the decision to leave the Republican Party before I hit my head, not after. A good friend of mine, who many of you know, Ben Dillingham, called me and he said you had somewhat of a political coming out, and he said it's a good thing. But you know, I ran for office the first time for the state assembly because I believe in my heart that public office is public service. My parents instilled that virtue in me at an early age. My dad was a factory worker who became a cop. That was public service. My mom runs shelters for victims of crime. Use your energy and your effort to make a difference. And my entire time in public office, I focused on bringing people together, solving problems, getting things done. I'm proud of my legislative record, where I've had over 30 pieces of legislation signed into law. I'm proud of the fact that members of both political parties support me. And I'm proud of the fact that today we came out and we took a stand to say, if I am elected your mayor, I will always be an independent voice for what is right. Because our partisan system is broken. It's not working. And there are different ways to do it. There's a way to do it to say we're going to be honest about problems, focus on solutions, bring people together, and that's what I believe our city needs moving forward into the next decade. I'm honored to be here this evening. I'm honored to have taken stands on issues that are important for equality, and I think that there is a great tribute that should go to all four of the candidates for representing equality for everyone, including their sexual orientation. So thank you very, very much for having me and the kind welcome and reception. I appreciate it. Thank you.
As mayor, what do you feel you can do specifically for this community?
Well, I mean, I think there's a number of things. The first is you can have a mayor who will be consistent on your issues, who will be willing to stand out like we did on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, like we did on other issues. But I feel like there's something that benefits all communities. We really can begin to actually start rebuilding our city. And by any measurable standard, the last decade in the city of San Diego has been a rough one. We became a city that was defined as Enron by the sea. We became a national model for dysfunction. And I think that there's a chance in this election to bring in a new mayor, to turn the page on the problems of the past, and to really start rebuilding all of our communities and all of our neighborhoods. I've said I want to redefine San Diego as the world's most innovative city and start driving a conversation about the economic base of the future, the education system of the future, the way city services are delivered and administered and run. But in order to do that, it's going to take a mayor that not only has a vision for where we go as a city, a mayor that not only has specific plans, but a mayor that has an ability to work with people, to bring people from all communities together behind shared goals and shared purposes and move our city forward. And I've been very optimistic about the future of San Diego, and I know that we have that better future, but it is going to take something new. Someone not tied to the problems of the past, someone who will bring a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at things, an independent voice, and a willingness to work with everyone to move us forward. And that will lift up and help every community and every neighborhood and help rebuild our city and move us into a better future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, I guess we've yet to hear a candidate who has taken a position for or against the bypass bridge. Let's see what Nathan Fletcher has to say.
I support it. At least we answered your question, like it or not, at least we answered. But I feel like there's a broader conversation here. We're talking about, it's almost like talking about remodeling an entire house and we're spending the entire conversation on the garage door. You know, I mean, let's have a bigger, broader conversation about what we want Balboa Park to look like in 100 years. You know, let's have them 100 years from now look back and say, you know what, those people 100 years ago did something right. And they figured it out. Yeah, you can make this work. You can work with the community. You can do your environmental impact reviews. But let's have a bigger, broader conversation about how we make it the greatest park in the world. I want people to call Central Park Balboa Park East. I want everyone to be proud of our park. And I want us to invest in it to really build that out over the future. And I want us to send a message to community groups, to philanthropists who are willing to part with some of their hard-earned money to help us, to the environmental community that says we can get together and address these problems. 40 years ago, we put a man on the moon. I know we can figure out how to make a pedestrian bridge work a little better. This isn't hard, this is possible. But it takes a mayor that has a vision, that has an ability to get people to come together, that's willing to sit down and negotiate in good faith. But I think that we have to send a signal to all of those groups that we're talking about rebuilding our city. We're not talking about continuing the same fights with the same conversations and the same issues. We're all talking about how we rebuild our city, how we move us forward and where we go. And if I'm your mayor, I'll be able to do that. Thank you. I do support it, and you're going to hear a lot about pensions from folks that are here, but I want to go back and address an issue that was raised, and I was kind of prepared to let this go, but in light of it being raised, I cannot. Carl, you can talk about the pride you took at getting that endorsement from the Republican Party, and I knew that I would never get it. But what you don't talk about is the fact that your campaign viciously attacked me in the open, from your own campaign manager, for my support of equal rights for people regardless of their sexual orientation. You took a far-right, extreme family values scorecard and you touted it as the reason that they should not support me and should support you. And so I think it's fine. It's fine that you got the support because I am the exact same person in every community I go into. I don't go into one and say one and go into the other. And my question, Carl, is your campaign director and your surrogates attacked me for my support of SB 48 because I believe that our history books should be historically accurate, should recognize the contribution of everyone. And I'm proud to have taken that position, and I'm proud to support it. You refuse to answer. You refuse to answer. Do you support that effort or do you not support that issue?
Okay,
just answer the question.
Okay, we are going to vary from our format just a little bit. I am going to give Carl DeMaio a 60-second response.
Let me make something perfectly clear. I'm going to make something very perfectly clear. I have never criticized any of my opponents for their position on social issues.
Okay, folks, hang on. We need to show respect to all the candidates.
I have never criticized any of our candidates for their position on social issues, nor will I, because I do not believe the role of the mayor is to advance a social issue agenda. That has been very clear, that has been very consistent.
What do and the mayor do to help end homelessness?
Yeah, thank you. And Carl, when it gets to your chance, it's just a yes or no question. Really easy. If you're for equality, do it consistently. Answer the question about SB 48.
Okay, let's talk
But
about
on the issue of homelessness, I appreciate Bob's efforts to help our veterans. As someone who served for a decade in the Marine Corps, who went to war and came back, it strikes me as a moral issue. If we have the moral authority to send young men and women to war, we have the moral obligation to take care of them when they come home. And if we as a country, if we can find the money to send you to war, then I'm pretty sure we can find the money to take care of you when you come home. And the federal government has got to do a better job of getting our veterans off the street because we should have learned the lesson of Vietnam. And we should be doing a better job to honor the service of those who are out there, and it's tragic and it's heartbreaking. But as I went out to survey, to find homeless veterans, to get them in help, it opened my eyes up to a broader problem. When you go out and you talk to people, you hear I've never met anyone who wants to be homeless. They all have a unique story, they have a unique set of problems, and when you take the time to listen and find them help, we can get them off the streets. And as mayor, I commit to work with all of the groups that are out there addressing the problem. There's some very committed people who are working very hard to address this problem. And the city can ensure that we fund the winter shelter, but more importantly, the city can bring all of those groups together. and say, let's have a long-term plan, let's have a long-term commitment, let's measure our success, because it says a lot about who we are as a city. Have we let people sleep on the streets without offering them a little bit of help? And I know that we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're from the Independent Party. David Fletcher, what do you
A
think
small
about,
but powerful group.
what do you think about overturning Prop 13?
Well, before we get there, just one more chance, Carl, before you scurry off to your next event. You talked about LGBT youth being homeless, and I voted for Cessflaw to say no bullying. I voted for SB 48 to say there should be no stigma associated and no shame. And anyway, and you have yet to answer the question. You use those votes in Rancho Bernardo against me to get support, and you come here, and I think it's fair to say, answer the question, well, how would you support it on this? But you'll have one more chance, so hopefully you'll do the right thing. On Prop 13, when you go back and you look at time, and you look at when that was passed from then until now, I believe it's the job of tax policy to provide stable, reliable revenue to a government entity, to bring it in at least the rate of population and inflation. So from a policy standpoint, you go back to when it was passed until today, and the revenue to the state of California has far exceeded population growth. It's far exceeded inflation growth. And it's one of the only stable forms of revenue we have. We're so dependent on income tax, it spikes, revenues spike, and then it tanks, and that creates these structural deficits. When the economy spikes, revenue from property tax goes up barely, 1%, 2%. When it tanks, it goes down 1 or 2%. So I know it doesn't make logical sense that you just bought your house and you pay a lot more than your neighbor who had it for 40 years. But you can't make tax policy in a state of 38 million people off an anecdotal example of you versus your neighbor. You got to say it's the job of tax policy to bring in steady, reliable revenue at a rate equal or greater than population and inflation growth that ensures we don't have spikes and drops. And so I think it's been good tax policy, and I would not support changing it. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me here this evening, Bob. Thank you for the job offers. If you think I do such a great job, maybe consider voting for me. Bob has a real commitment to our ports, and I said if I'm mayor, I will make him a port commissioner. But you know, it's been an honor to be here this evening to answer some questions, to watch others not, but to have a real discussion about the future of our city. Because we have a real opportunity. We have a real choice. You have clear differences between the candidates who are up here. And I will just tell you that I have been honored to serve throughout my life. I was honored to serve my country in the Marine Corps. I've been honored to come home and continue that service in the State Assembly, where we've built a reputation as someone that can get things done. Someone that can work with people of all parties, or of no party. Of someone that has a willingness to sit down and negotiate in good faith and to move us forward into a better future. And that is the choice we have. When you make this decision for mayor, you have to ask, who do you want representing you? Who do you want representing your city? What is the tone and temperament and approach that you want in that office? That you want to set the direction of where we head? Because while the last decade has been awful, the next decade can be great. We have an opportunity to really move forward. An opportunity to really rebuild San Diego, to get it moving again. But that's going to take something new. Thank you very, very much for the wonderful welcome and letting me join you this evening. I appreciate it. Thank you.